All right, guys, welcome back to the second episode of the updating wizard guide. My name is Glocktane. I consider myself one of the best wizards in the game right now. This new build is going to be heavily focused around the new Staff Mastery Perk. Wizard's the new melee king. Yeah! Yeah, baby! You like that? You like that? Take your club and shove it up. Woo! Oh, you can't just hold W anymore on a wizard? Sucks to suck. How'd you get so much physical damage with the staff? You don't. You get a fuck ton of magic damage with the staff because of the new Staff Mastery. This is the update that gave us Staff Mastery, gave us the marketplace. The quarterstaff now actually works as a starter item for the wizard. Arcane feedback got buffed and the reactive shield got buffed. Now the big takeaways are the Staff Mastery and reactive shield, game changers. The build that I primarily run is going to be Staff Mastery, Reactive Shield, Ice Shield, and Fire Mastery. Reason being, you're going to get in the fray a lot. The things that you're going to want to build are going to be mostly health, like Vig, and magic power. Now, I try to get it around 65%. That's with Fire Mastery. If you do decide to swap out Fire Mastery for Mana Surge, you should be upwards of like 75-80%. The 5 magic damage that gets added through the Staff Mastery, the 5 magic weapon damage scales with your magic power, the plus additional magical damage, and the plus true damage. That's insanity. So what ends up happening is you can headshot for upwards of like 139 damage, and most of that is going to be magical. So unless they have an insane amount of MR, like a Warlock, you're probably going to just win the fight. Iron Will Barbarians are still very tough, but I find that people who've been playing Barbarian kind of like hard crutch on the fact nobody wants to get near them. So most of the time when they're playing Barbarian, they just try to beat the crap out of you and they don't really think about positioning. But we'll talk about that in the montage here in a little bit. The big things I want to go over are, if you could build the best possible kit, it would obviously be high knowledge, high health, high magic power, and high true damage. Unrealistic. So what you should be going for, just to get yourself in the door, is going to be high health and high magic power. That'll be simple, because you can be the aggressor now. Your goal when you start these fights, start the fight by setting Ignite on yourself, and then walking forward with Fireball equipped. Because as you walk forward with Fireball equipped, they're trying to figure out if they want to engage or disengage. Throw it at their feet, get a little bit of chip damage in. If you have Fire Mastery, it's going to set a burn for a little bit longer, so it's going to be even better. If you just have Mana Surge, it'll just be a bit more chip damage. I use Fire Mastery specifically in my build because Second Wind Fighter, Demon Form Warlock, and Clerics, I don't want them healing up. The Mana Surge does end up making up for a little bit of the damage that, say, they would have healed, but what it does over those extended fights with a Second Wind Fighter, Lifesteal Warlock, you negate the amount of healing that they would have done in the heat of the moment, right? So instead of having to increase the amount of difficulty in the fight by changing your positioning and trying to then counteract what they're doing, you can just continue the assault. And making it so the fight is simplified is going to be a lot better for you and a lot more consistent. If you just enjoy Mana Surge in big number, awesome, go for it. I know I love that. But the ability that we are going to be using is Arcane Shield. Now, big shout out to Katie. I did not believe in Arcane Shield. I used to exclusively rock Instacast with Chain Lightning on this build. That's a lot of fun too, but it's not as consistent. Just because the spell itself is like client-side based off of bodies and wonky, it's terrible. So Arcane Shield, what this is essentially you gain a shield around you, absorbs 20 damage from all damage for about 12 seconds. If they break it, it also explodes, dealing magical damage around you. So one thing that I do is I start with a blue protection pot, and then we go into the fight with Ignite Staff, and then as you close the gap, you're going to be a lot slower than your enemy. The main thing that you want to be doing in these fights is controlling the area around the fight. So if you can trap them in a room with you, that's the best goal. This is why we call it like the intellect barbarian. right? Because you're not super fast unless you get that crazy kit. You're not going to be super fast. I don't run haste. The spells that I use are Fireball, Zap, Ignite, Invisibility, and Magic Missile. The reason I no longer use Ice Bolt is most of the time, the people that were taking me out were people with shields. Oh, shit. So if there was a fighter with a shield or a barbarian with a shield or a cleric with a shield walking me down, low knowledge means slow fireballs. A shield means I can't just throw the ice bolt at them. And if I hit them in the leg, it's going to be like no damage. It's going to be like 30 damage, even on a high kit, because it's a projectile that gets affected by the arm and leg negation. I use Zap, so that way if they start putting up their shield, I can pump fake with Zap, and if they just continue to hide, I can just shoot their legs. While you still have Ignite on, if they do decide to challenge you, just stop. Just cancel the spell. Whack them. You win. So what it becomes is a little chess match of like you forcing them into whatever situation you want. You walk into the room, start charging Zap while you have Ignite up, or start with Fireball just to get that chip damage in. It's very pressure heavy, and I will say it's very forgiving because of how much health you'll build. Shoot for around at least 130 HP. 130. That's the lowest you should be. Even if you have to give up a little bit of magic power, it's going to matter more. Because between Reactive Shield and the Arcane Shield, the Reactive Shield is going to block 15 damage. Arcane Shield is going to block 20. You'll have like 165 HP. If they start hitting you for free, you've already lost. You need to be whacking them. It's going to be weird at first, but it's important. So those are the spells that I rock. This has been the most efficient build that I have. I'll put up a little montage here for just for shits and gigs so you guys can see it. One is 60 plus 44 is 104, 119 damage.
Okay, coming.
How dare you? You come into my house and expect the smackdown? Block of tungsten.
Hit him once.
Nice.
Hit him twice.
Kite one direction.
3 times. I'm so good at the game. Wait, I can break through this. And it doesn't hurt
I got a rogue. Rogue dead.
I can't.
You
Shit.
shall not pass, rogue boy. You're slowed.
I killed him.
Nice, Jack. Nice.
Bravo. On the market, you can actually see we ended up getting around 30,000 gold from all of the people that we were just killing and selling their stuff on the marketplace. So we were able to buy a gold coin chest and all of these gold bags. It's pretty insane. And we were able to just get an insane armory and repertoire. We had to just start vendoring things because we were making so much money. I rock Adventure Tunic a lot of the time, but Regal Gambeson also works. The best things you can get are leather caps, rings of vitality, a bear pendant, a necklace of peace, because this gives you Vig, and this gives you, the necklace of peace gives you 7 like regular max health. Max health is good if you can get much higher Vig. That means when you rest or you sit, you're going to gain a lot more health back. And you could run meditate with this if you want to, but with 10 ignites, I do not find myself running out of spells. You can 2-tap kobolds on the ice cave. I do believe this is going to get nerfed. So the next patch that is probably coming with the end of wipe, I guarantee they're not going to do a hotfix before the end of the wipe just to make things easier on people. One of the best things that you can do, start getting good practice with swinging. The swing down and to the right is a very simple pattern. And if you are trying to counter it, let's say you're a fighter or a barbarian watching this right now, literally all you have to do is just look over our shoulder with the shield. And then when we're stunned, because we have low dex, just beat the shit out of us. That's all you have to do. Arcane feedback did recently get buffed. It's still not worth it because you have to be hitting things. If you're going to be looking for arcane magical damage, using Arcane Mastery is still just better because not only is it a natural reducing of the cast time for your invis and your magic missile, it is also just always 5% arcane magical damage. So if you're running arcane feedback and you only hit like 1 or 2 magic missiles, you're still gonna be behind Arcane Mastery. It's not smart. It's just not smart to do. And then don't rock melt. Your physical power does not matter with this build, okay? The idea being, and we talked about this in the first video about how to distinguish and identify physical power, magic power, all that kind of stuff. Your physical power is already negative 30%. So then, adding the melt proc when you deal magic fire damage to a target, the target loses 10% PDR for 5 seconds. They're already just going to be, it's nothing. Like you have negative 30% on like 26. You are losing a third of that already. You're doing like 18 damage with it, okay? It is not worth it, especially if you're going up against like a Hound Skull, a Barbuda Helm, all that kind of shit, right? So don't worry about Melt. You don't need Quick Chant, you don't need Sage. Mana Surge and Fire Mastery are the only two that I genuinely think, like Fire Mastery and Mana Surge, I think those are the only two that could be swapped. For this build, one of the big things people don't think about is how Ice Shield reduces their movement speed and their action speed by 20% for half a second. So if they hit you with one falchion hit and you're walking away, they're not going to hit the next one. Even if a rogue gets on you, you'll have the ability to throw up Arcane Shield as you're walking away because they get slowed. And it takes half a second. So then you can turn and start beating them. Now, for those of you out there that are saying, oh, this is overpowered, this is insane, this is so stupid. Warlock actually has the ability to do this, but better. Because they just rock Soul Collector, get up 10 gems, and then just rock Dark Reflection. So if you hit the Warlock like this, you end up getting shot back, right? Because you literally can one-shot yourself. This is not the same. And so with like Blow of Corruption and Dark Reflection, it's just a much better build for this, especially with the access to, say, Demon Form, all this. I do believe Wizard needed this, and I have been a huge advocate for having magical damage on the staff. I do think it needs to be toned down a little bit because there have been multiple people that have just been straight up one-shot by it. Now, if you're wearing a Shadow Mask, I don't care. If you're wearing a leather cap, though, or maybe a Hound Skull, and you get almost one-tap by it, that's a little ridiculous. Maybe we tone the scaling down to like 80%, 75%. Because if you're hard maxing into magic power and health, you don't have movement speed, so they can kite you. If they can't kite you, that's on them, okay? If you are hard focusing into speed and damage, you're squishy. They can just hit you with a crippling shot. They can hit you with a Zweihander. All of these things. Falchion. They can kite you out with Dark Bolt. Do I need to go on for any of the other classes that have crossbows or can throw drums at you or can silence you? No, I don't need to. So the big takeaway, of course, get in, get a little bit of practice, start controlling those fights and the spacing with Wizard. And I hope you guys enjoyed the little montages, and I hope you check out this build, because instead of going knowledge, move speed, and magic power, or add true damage, this is just a fun little mix-up, and it makes the game really fun. So Iron Mace, if you guys are watching, any of the devs, thank you so much for throwing in these huge swinging changes. It made Wizard a lot of fun. This is the first buff in like, what, 10 patches? 10 patches? Also, meditate. When you meditate now, you get like health back like if you were resting. I'm not sure how that helps anybody, but it is just like a nice quality of life thing. So thank you for that. Other than that, don't use the quarterstaff because your magical staff the magical damage that it scales with will scale your true damage, or it will scale your magical damage. Other than that, if you guys have any questions about how to do any of that, make sure you watch my first video on how to address any of the stats or any of the perks for Wizard. And make sure you subscribe, because we will be talking about the different builds and showing off showcases for it. So thank you so much. I'll see you on Twitch.